Blood Quartets, the secrets that almost killed Nostradamus. Before we dive into the darkest secrets of history's greatest prophet, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell, because what you're about to discover about Nostradamus will change everything you thought you knew about his predictions. And if this blows your mind, smash that like button to help us uncover more hidden truths. Michel de Nostradamus, the man we know as Nostradamus, died clutching a manuscript that the Catholic Church tried desperately to destroy. For over 450 years, historians believed his most dangerous prophecies were lost forever. They were wrong. Hidden within his famous quatrains lies a coded system so terrifying that it nearly cost him his life, and so accurate that it predicted events with surgical precision centuries before they happened. But here's what they don't want you to know. Nostradamus didn't just predict the future. He discovered something far more sinister, a pattern in human blood that reveals the darkest chapters of our species' destiny. Welcome to the story of the Blood Quartets, the forbidden knowledge that almost killed the world's greatest seer. The year was 1555. Nostradamus sat in his candlelit study in Salon de Provence, France, when something unprecedented happened. As he gazed into his brass bowl filled with water, his preferred method of divination, he didn't see visions of the future. Instead, he witnessed something that made his blood run cold. Patterns of crimson liquid flowing through time itself, connecting the most devastating events in human history. These weren't ordinary prophecies. What Nostradamus discovered that night was a systematic code hidden within blood, a biological blueprint that predetermined humanity's most violent moments. He called them the Quartets de Sang, or Blood Quartets, because each vision came in groups of 4 interconnected prophecies, bound by a common thread of bloodshed that spanned centuries. The first quartet he witnessed was so shocking that he immediately burned his notes. But the visions kept coming, relentlessly, night after night. He realized he had stumbled upon something that challenged the very foundations of free will and divine providence, a discovery that would mark him for death by the most powerful institutions of his time. What makes the Blood Quartets truly extraordinary isn't just their accuracy. It's the sophisticated encoding system Nostradamus developed to hide them from the Inquisition. While scholars have spent centuries trying to decode his famous quatrains, they missed the most important element. The blood references weren't metaphorical. They were literal instructions for a biological divination technique that Nostradamus perfected. Deep within seemingly innocent verses about wars and kings, Nostradamus embedded a complex system based on bloodline patterns, lunar cycles, and what he called sanguine convergences, moments when certain genetic markers will align to create catastrophic events. He discovered that major historical tragedies weren't random occurrences, but followed predictable patterns written in human DNA. The quatrain, "Lu sang du just à Londres faire faute," the blood of the just will be lacking in London, wasn't about a single event. It was a key to unlocking an entire sequence of predictions about how specific bloodlines would shape Britain's destiny. When decoded properly, this single line predicted the execution of Charles I, the Great Fire of London, and even the rise and fall of the British Empire, all connected by the genetic legacy of specific noble houses. But Nostradamus knew that revealing this knowledge directly would sign his death warrant. The Catholic Church was already suspicious of his prophetic abilities, and the revelation that he had discovered a scientific basis for predicting divine would have branded him the ultimate heretic. By 1557, Nostradamus realized he was being watched. Church investigators had begun questioning his neighbors, examining his writings, and most dangerously, trying to replicate his divination methods. The Inquisition had developed their own network of seers and mystics, and they were getting uncomfortably close to discovering the truth about the Blood Quartets. The breaking point came when Cardinal Alessandro Farnese, one of the most powerful men in the Catholic Church, requested a private audience with Nostradamus. The official reason was to seek guidance about the Pope's health. The real reason, as Nostradamus would later discover, was to test whether the prophet had truly unlocked the secrets of divine prophecy, or if he was practicing something far more heretical. During that fateful meeting, Farnese asked Nostradamus a seemingly innocent question: "Can you see the blood that will flow in the Holy Land?" It was a trap. If Nostradamus answered using conventional prophetic language, he would be dismissed as another charlatan. But if he revealed any knowledge of the blood quartet system, he would be exposing himself as someone who had discovered truths that only God should know. Nostradamus gave a carefully crafted response that satisfied the cardinal, while revealing nothing about his true methods. But he knew his time was running out. The church was systematically eliminating anyone who possessed knowledge that threatened their monopoly on divine revelation. Realizing that his discovery was too important to die with him, Nostradamus began the most dangerous project of his life: encoding the complete blood quartet system within his published prophecies in a way that would survive centuries of scrutiny while remaining hidden from his contemporary enemies. Working in absolute secrecy, he developed a multi-layered encryption system that combined astrological symbols, alchemical formulas, and what he called sanguine mathematics, numerical codes based on blood type frequencies, and genetic inheritance patterns that wouldn't be understood until the modern era of DNA research. The most dangerous quartets were hidden within his most famous predictions. The prophecy about Hister, that scholars believe refers to Hitler, wasn't just about a single dictator. It was a key to understanding how specific genetic markers, when concentrated in certain populations through historical migration patterns, would create the conditions for genocide. Each night, Nostradamus would encode one more piece of the puzzle. Knowing that dawn might bring church investigators to his door, he scattered the complete system across hundreds of quatrains, creating multiple backup copies hidden in different ways throughout his work. Some were encoded in the apparent errors and inconsistencies that scholars have puzzled over for centuries. Others were hidden in the mathematical relationships between quatrain numbers and their placement within the centuries. The most terrifying discovery Nostradamus made wasn't about past or future events. It was about the present. The blood quartets revealed that the pattern of human violence wasn't random or driven by political circumstances. It was cyclical, predictable, and most shocking of all, accelerating. He calculated that humanity was approaching what he termed the Grand Convergence, a period when all the bloodline patterns would align simultaneously, creating conditions for either humanity's greatest evolutionary leap or its complete destruction. His calculations pointed to a specific period in what we now know as the early 21st century. But there was one final secret, so dangerous that Nostradamus took extraordinary measures to hide it even from his own encoded system. Hidden within his personal copy of the prophecies, written in an ink made from his own blood, was a location of what he called the source, the original genetic anomaly that had created the patterns he had discovered. This final prophecy, known only as the Crimson Archive, contained not just predictions but instructions. Nostradamus had discovered that the blood quartets weren't just a tool for predicting the future. They were a roadmap for controlling it. When Nostradamus died in 1566, he was clutching that blood-written manuscript. His family, following his explicit instructions, attempted to burn it along with his other private papers. But the blood ink proved remarkably resistant to fire, and several pages survived with cryptic symbols still visible. These fragments were secretly preserved by a network of scholars and mystics who called themselves the Crimson Brotherhood. For over 400 years, they worked to decode Nostradamus' final secret. Piece by piece, generation by generation, what they discovered changed everything. The blood quartets weren't just prophecies, they were a warning system. Nostradamus had seen that humanity's future hung on understanding and potentially breaking the cycles he had identified. Recent advances in genetic research have begun to validate aspects of Nostradamus' system that seemed impossible just decades ago. The correlation between certain genetic markers and behavioral patterns, the cyclical nature of historical events, even the mathematical relationships between population genetics and social upheaval. All of it aligns with patterns the prophet identified over 450 years ago. Today, as we face global challenges that seem to echo the cycles Nostradamus identified, the question becomes more urgent than ever. Are we living to fulfillment of his most terrifying prediction? The signs he encoded in the blood quartets point to our current era as the culmination of centuries of building patterns. The technology exists now to fully decode his system. DNA analysis, global population tracking, advanced pattern recognition software. We have tools that Nostradamus could only dream of, but perhaps more importantly, we have something he didn't: the ability to choose a different path. The blood quartets weren't just a prediction of inevitable doom. They were Nostradamus' gift to future generations, a warning system that could help humanity recognize and potentially break the cycles that have driven our species toward violence and destruction throughout history. The question isn't whether Nostradamus truly discovered the secrets written in human blood. The question is, what are we going to do with that knowledge? The truth about Nostradamus' most dangerous discovery has been hidden for over 450 years, but the patterns he identified are more relevant today than ever before. If you want to uncover more suppressed historical secrets that could change how we understand our world, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. And if this opened your eyes to the hidden connections in history, smash that like button. It helps us continue bringing you the truth they don't want you to know.